Welcome to WagerTalk TV. I'm Kelly Stewart, joined by Preston Johnson and Marco D'Angelo. We'll talk about an interesting game here. Florida State catching 17.5, 18, depending on where you like to shop, at Notre Dame. Here's a Notre Dame team that I've bet against several times with Ian Book last week. Depending on when you bet Northwestern with me, you either got a push or you had a loser. And I think we're going to see more of the same throughout the rest of the season with the Irish. They are playing really good, sound football. My question here is, do you lay the big number with the Irish, not only because of how well they've been doing, but how poorly Florida State has been doing? Have they truly cashed it in? We've heard all sorts of rumors about Willie Taggart, saying you guys quit against Clemson. And then last week, they just got the bricks beat off them again. So here we are talking about Notre Dame. Is it worth laying the big number here?
You look at this one for me, it's been a horrible year for Florida State, no question about it. But if you're not going to get up for going to Notre Dame, they're undefeated in just all the tradition of Notre Dame going to South Bend. This is a spot where if they're going to show up, it's here. And the one thing that they do that's the only weak link that I can see on this Notre Dame team is Florida State can pass the football. Notre Dame has had trouble against some teams that could throw the football. Vanderbilt threw for over 300 against them earlier in the year. Michigan in the first game of the season with Shea Patterson, who was still learning the Michigan offense, threw for 250, and Virginia Tech had over 300 yards passing against them. Florida State, if Notre Dame plays not to lose instead of playing to win, could sneak in under the number.
I mean, Marco makes a good point. Brian Kelly does do that from time to time, sits on a lead, doesn't play high-powered football as we've started to see in college football. But this Notre Dame team is similar to a lot of other teams we talked about. They just have to win, and they're in.
Yeah, I mean, they don't need to run up the score, whereas maybe a Michigan will try against Rutgers since they already have a loss, and it could come down to something like that. I will make a couple important points. One, Francois didn't play last week. I bet NC State last week, actually. I think there's a severe drop-off from Francois to Blackman at quarterback for Florida State. So that's massive. He's questionable this week, so I wouldn't even bet the game if we don't know it's Francois or Blackman yet. For me, my number is 20, though. I would actually look. If this was 17 or better and Blackman was starting, I would definitely be betting Notre Dame, actually. If Francois is starting, it's a total pass. I think that's fine. But it doesn't look like it's ever going to get to 17 anyways. But I think it is a little low for what it's worth. The total's intriguing to me. Actually, would lean to the over. I think I'd like a 2.5-point edge to the over. But again, very dependent on who's playing quarterback. If it's Blackman, no way. I was on record last year saying I thought he was the biggest drop-off of any quarterback last season, and that's why Florida State struggled so badly last year. With Francois, they're not that bad. And then this year, they've been better with Francois. When Blackman plays, their efficiency goes way down. So this is a really big game. It's going to get a lot of hype, but it's not one that I could ultimately bet without knowing who's going to be starting at quarterback. It's a rib injury, so even if he does play, he's not 100% anyways. So how does that affect his passing? So it's ultimately really tough for me to really get behind the Seminoles, even though I think, the narrative with the spot coming off the big Northwestern win, just needing to win to get through, I think that makes sense. But ultimately, Florida State can only get 10 to 14 points on the board. Their defense hasn't been good this year. The Taggart defense has been horrible. Notre Dame will get theirs too. So it's a tough one, and I'm passing until we get more information.
The one thing we talked about Brian Kelly and just getting through. Last week against Northwestern, they won by 10 points. They had a yardage edge of 464 to 249. That kind of yardage edge is supposed to.
And I still had a chance to backdoor it with Notre Dame. I mean, there was multiple opportunities there for the Wildcats.
2 drives, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my concern here with Notre Dame. Like I said, these final couple weeks, you got to look at these teams that, it's going to start, what body parts are going to start clenching up here late in the season, just having to win and move on, because them and Michigan just have to hold serve.
Awesome. Great visual by Marco D'Angelo. Make sure you guys check in Sunday about an hour before kickoff with me. We do the 2-minute warning. I go over the entire NFL card with one of the bookmakers here in town. We talk about public money, sharp money, and what the books need on Sunday morning.